We are in the middle of the most extraordinary communications revolution in the history of man. Just this year alone, what have we learned? Just this year alone. July 31st, there's an update on that. We learned that it wasn't just the IRS. We learned it was the Federal Election Commission also doing this. Now you've got two arms of government that are persecuting conservative organizations. Is that a story? No. ABC, NBC, CBS, nothing. About the bias by commission. It's not just the bias by omission, where you're not covering a story here and there. Entire scandals are deliberately being kept from the American people by the news media. There are reports that up to 200 Mexicans have been shot to death with these weapons. So is that a story? Is it a story that American weapons with American policy from the FBI to distribute these guns resulted in the death of an American? Is that a story? Is it a story that the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, was asked about this and denied any knowledge of this when it turns out he signed off on it? Is that a story? Well, if you are a reporter for ABC, NBC, or CBS, the answer is no. There was no coverage until the summer of 2012. On June 12th of 2012, word came out that the United States Congress was going to approve contempt charges against the Attorney General. That's big, big, serious stuff. That's when the media covered it. You know what they did to go after conservative organizations? If you had any anti-Obama rhetoric in your mission statement, if you oppose the Obamacare, that's anti-Obama rhetoric, that's a red flag to have the IRS come after you. If you were in any way, another one was emotional. If you were emotional in your statements, in a free republic, we're now being told if our statements are emotional, the federal government will come after us. Is that a story? ABC, NBC, CBS, nothing, nothing. So if you're a conservative out there, you know these stories exist. You may not know everything. But if you have to be a capital C conservative. If you're an average Joe guy out there who's a conservative, you have no idea about this. If you're a moderate, you have no idea about this. If you're a liberal, you have no idea about this. Now you understand why a Barack Obama can win the presidency. Because if you don't know this, you may just think he's a great guy if you don't know the truth of what's going on there. How can you have a functioning democracy when the electorate does not have access to information? It cannot be done. You cannot have a functioning democracy with the functioning rule of law in those circumstances. So what do? Pretty darn depressing. Whether we like it or not, these things are happening. Number one, we are no longer in the news era. We are now in the information era. We are no longer in the business of giving. We are in the business of sharing. The business studies will show you that the average ad on television is believed by 14% of the public. That's what the studies show. You take that exact same commercial, and you put it on Facebook, you know where it goes to? 78%. And why is that? Friends sharing information. There are three power centers in American society today for the left. Academia, with one big exception, entertainment, and the news media. What do they have in common? In all three, the liberal sees it as a way to change the world. It is their means to change the world. Journalism goes out the window. because ends justify the means. I will use journalism to promote my good. So they don't go to the left because of any specific government policy. They are just at the left, and they will endorse those government policies. And that's what social media does. It starts somewhere. But along those lines, and this we have to be very careful about and very serious about. And I say this to my conservative friends, all who point to the internet and saying, look at the vehicles we now have to communicate. It's absolutely true. But be careful what you wish for. Because just as we say that the old media, don't call them mainstream, there's nothing mainstream about them. Just because the old media is violating rules of journalism, the new media doesn't have rules of journalism. So the potential is even graver. The cardinal rule of journalism, journalism 101, is you must have two sources for any story. Through Facebook, we can tell that story now, and we can reach millions of people with that information. And somebody can contact us from, do you know, the guy who did my Facebook site was hired by the government of Egypt to explain to them what they'd just done when they toppled the Mubarak, the next government, hired him to explain to them what they'd just done. They had no idea. They did it with Facebook. Facebook toppled that government. That's the power. So just imagine if we had it, if we applied ourselves using social media, we can change everything. We can change the conversation, not just politically, not just culturally, but ultimately spiritually. That's the power we now have.